I'm very pleased to introduce here and to share with you the next hour the creator of Melodysheep, which is this concept, Mr. John Boswell, ladies and gentlemen.
Hello.
That's right. That's working, right.
Can you hear me? Yeah, John. Okay. So, yeah, thank you for having me today. My name is John Boswell. I'm a music producer and a creative director from Washington State. And my job is to turn scientists into rock stars. So I'm the creator of a web series called Symphony of Science, which takes quotes from inspirational scientists and remixes them into music videos. I'm here today to talk to you about my journey as an online content creator, my insights into the creative process, and how creativity can really inspire students and even adults to get curious about the sciences. Let's try this. There we go. So growing up, I was just like every other kid. I loved dinosaurs in space, and science was my favorite class in elementary school. But as I got into high school, like a lot of kids, I discovered that science either became too boring to hold my interest or too difficult to understand, and I think a lot of people can relate to that. And so what I think this comes down to is not the way it was being presented, or I'm sorry, not the material itself, but the way it was being presented, because when I got to college, I watched Carl Sagan's Cosmos for the first time, and that really was an eye-opening moment for me. I realized that science didn't have to be boring or difficult. It could be really actually inspiring and fascinating. And I think that's because of the way Carl Sagan really delivered the information to you. He didn't just spoon-feed you information and say, the universe is 13.7 billion years old. He took all of time, compressed it into a cosmic calendar, made January 1st the Big Bang, and then the entire history of the human race on December 31st. And that's just doing something completely differently than I'd ever seen done before, which is really, it really made me perk up and pay attention. And then he himself had so much charisma, and he really talked to you like you were a friend, not like you were a student. And the way he utilized music in his show really helped strengthen the impact of the series. And all these things combined really helped inspire me to get back into science. So I wasn't the only one who felt this way when I watched Cosmos. When it first aired in 1980, it was wildly popular, and 500 million people tuned in to watch it. A lot of people today still point to Cosmos as their inspiration for going into scientific careers. So you really have to think about all the people that inspired. It's incredible. And 30 years after it originally aired, it inspired me personally to develop a deep curiosity about the sciences. So I started taking elective classes in college about astronomy, anthropology, dinosaurs, all that stuff that really fascinated me as a kid. And I realized then that those childhood fascinations, that sense of wonder you have as a kid, it never goes away. It just needs to be rekindled in the right way. So everyone still has that sense of wonder deep in them, and I think that's really true for everybody. Dinosaurs in space are just as cool to adults as they are to kids. And so when I noticed how easy it was to rekindle that sense of wonder, I wanted to do something that could share that feeling with anyone who would listen. So I set out to make Symphony of Science as a way to spark that wonder again in people who it might have faded for, to get them to take another look at these subjects. Now, as a musician and video editor, I wanted to pay tribute to Cosmos, which was the reason I got back into science personally. So I wanted to do something that no one had ever done before, to really innovate in the way that Carl Sagan did in 1980, in the hopes that someone would perk up and pay attention and get curious like I did. So I started looking around YouTube in the summer of 2009 and noticing that some people were using a technique called auto-tune to turn newscasters' speech into singing. And this is a really cool, unique idea, and it's a way to create songs that no one has ever done before. What you do really is you take speech, you import it into a program, and then you manipulate the timing and the pitch of it to fit a song. And so it sounds like people are actually singing when they originally spoke the words. And as a music producer, I decided this is really cool and unique idea, and I should explore what this is like. So I set out to try it on my own, but I took it a different direction. So I started working with Cosmos with Carl Sagan's speech samples. I started off by picking the coolest, most interesting sound bites I could find, stringing them together to fit a theme, and then I started working that theme and those samples into an instrumental I'd written. So after I had the quotes all lined up, I did the auto-tune technique. I really took these spoken words and I tuned them and synced them to this tempo and instrumental. And once I put the video together, it started coming out like a real song, something you could sing along to. So as a finishing touch, I used Stephen Hawking as a guest vocalist, which was a nice little gesture. I completed the entire video, and then the final product was something similar to a legitimate music video, which is a really surprising and unexpectedly nice result. So I'll play it for you now. Here's A Glorious Dawn, my first video.
I'm not very good at singing songs, but here's a try.
If you wish to make an apple pie from scratch, you must first invent the universe. Space is filled with a network of wormholes. You might emerge somewhere else in space, somewhere else in time. The sky calls to us. If we do not destroy ourselves, we will one day venture to the stars. A still more glorious dawn awaits, not a sunrise, but a galaxy rose. A morning filled with 400 billion suns. The rising of the Milky Way. Cosmos is full beyond measure of elegant truths, of exquisite interrelationships, of the awesome machinery of nature. I believe our future depends powerfully on how well we understand this cosmos, in which we float like a mote of dust in the morning sky.
But the brain does much more than just recollect. It intercompares, it synthesizes, it analyzes, it generates abstractions.
The simplest thought, like the concept of the number one, has an elaborate logical underpinning. The brain has its own language for testing the structure and consistency of the world. A still more glorious dawn awaits, not a sunrise, but a galaxy rose. A morning filled with 400 billion suns. The rising of the Milky Way. The sky calls to us. If we do not destroy ourselves, we will one day venture to the stars.
For thousands of years, people have wondered about the universe. Did it stretch out forever, or was there a limit? From the Big Bang to black holes, from dark matter to a possible Big Crunch, our image of the universe today is full of strange sounding ideas.
How lucky we are to live in this time, the first moment in human history when we are, in fact, visiting other worlds. A still more glorious dawn awaits, not a sunrise, but a galaxy rise. A morning filled with 400 billion suns. The rising of the Milky Way. A still more glorious dawn awaits, not a sunrise, but a galaxy rise. A morning filled with 400 billion suns. The rising of the Milky Way. The surface of the Earth is the shore of the cosmic ocean. Recently we've waded a little way up, and the water seems inviting.
So I essentially put this video on YouTube without any hopes that anyone would watch it at all, because there are millions of videos on YouTube and I was just another kid uploading, and there was thousands of us out there. So I was pleasantly surprised when I noticed that people were reacting positively to this, and it really got a rise out of people. And I think why that was is that it began to spark that sense of wonder that people had as kids again. I started getting messages from people who said that they had a powerful reaction to the song and that they were curious about Carl Sagan now and curious what his show was about. So as the weeks went on and the video picked up more and more views, I started to realize that this concept was so rich that it could become, a legitimate entire series on YouTube. So I decided to create a second video and make it part of a larger project, which I titled Symphony of Science. The philosophy behind the series really is to get people inspired about science by presenting the ideas in easily digestible ways, and doing that through creative music and video editing. And so by remixing ordinary lectures and documentaries and all that stuff and putting this exciting twist on it, you get a new spin on science, and you can appeal to people who might have found that stuff boring or difficult in the past. Now, I got lucky with my timing because there's no better time in history, as you know, to be an independent content creator. So just a few years before I made that video, YouTube didn't even exist. And a few years before that, the software I used to make that video didn't even exist either. So I consider myself part of this movement of people who are leveraging the latest tools of technology to revolutionize the way that kids learn and drive learning in creative new ways. So I call this the creative learning paradigm, because so much about how we learn is rapidly changing. Fresh, creative new ways to teach students is what education really needs, in my opinion, because that's what kids respond most to. Education in the 21st century is going to look vastly different than ever before. My videos are part of this emerging ecosystem of tools for education that are revolutionizing the way that kids learn. So there are thousands of other projects on YouTube that achieve the same goal as Symphony of Science. And there are hundreds of websites out there like these where kids can go and learn heaps of information all on their own. As you know, as you're well aware, more information is available today than ever before. And students should be encouraged to seek it out themselves through websites like YouTube and Khan Academy and Wikipedia and all those. Now, anyone who watches my videos is going to be bombarded by suggestions for similarly engaging content on YouTube. And you can really get lost for hours just watching all the suggested videos that come up, and it's all amazing stuff, and you can learn incredible things along the way. So this is why I think it's important for teachers and educators to embrace these new technologies. Because when you're trying to inspire students, it really helps to be innovative in the way you present the content. If students are inspired enough by innovative content like I was watching Carl Sagan's Cosmos in 1980, they're going to seek out that knowledge on their own. And that's, I think, the ultimate end goal. So music appeals to everyone, and by crafting these catchy songs out of scientific information, it really helps the content to stick in your head, and it really helps you remember things. I've heard from students that they use my songs as a study aid, or that they'll play the songs in the background while they do their homework. I think one reason these songs strike a chord with a lot of people is that people really need a connection to the universe and to society, and this is a way for people to connect through the ideas of science in a way they never have before, through song. Now, there's really not much science-oriented music out there. And I was really surprised when I set out to make Symphony of Science that there was nothing like this already in existence. People really responded positively to this because they need that type of connection, and music, I think, is the best way to draw out those emotions in people. So when I create the videos, I try and pick the best, most interesting quotes to grab people's attention. But I also try to leave the videos open-ended so that you're left wanting to learn more when you're done watching. My goal isn't necessarily to teach you everything about quantum mechanics in a 3 or 4 minute music video. it's really to get you inspired about learning more about that subject, and to get you to read more about it and watch more videos and all that stuff, because ultimately it's more important to get people genuinely interested in the subject, because that's going to lead to a lifetime of discovery. So you can consider these videos as a gateway to the world of science. I think why they work in today's society is because they appeal to a lot of younger generations who have shorter attention spans and who grew up on YouTube videos. And it's a lot easier for these kids to get enticed by a 3 or 4 minute music video than by an hour-long lecture or documentary. So here's a video I created that tries to boil down one of the most complex topics in science, which is quantum mechanics. Now, you might not think that sounds possible at all, but just watch and listen for how you can grab people's interest just by handpicking the best and most interesting sound bites and putting them together in the right way. So here's my video, The Quantum World.
So, what are we really made of? Dig deep inside the atom when you'll find tiny particles held together by invisible forces. Everything is made up of tiny packets of energy born in cosmic furnaces.
The atoms that we're made of have negatively charged electrons whirling around a big, bulky nucleus.
The quantum theory offers a very different explanation of our world.
The universe is made of 12 particles of matter, 4 forces of nature. The universe is made of 12 particles of matter, 4 forces of nature. That's a wonderful and significant story.
Suppose that little things behaved very differently than anything big. Nothing is really as it seems. It's so wonderfully different than anything big. The world is a dynamic mess of jingling things. It's hard to believe. The quantum theory is so strange and bizarre. Even Einstein couldn't get his head around it. In the quantum world, the world of particles, nothing is certain. It's a world of probability. The quantum theory offers a very different explanation of our world.
The universe is made of 12 particles of matter, 4 forces of nature. The universe is made of 12 particles of matter, 4 forces of nature. That's a wonderful and significant story.
It's very hard to imagine all crazy things that things really are like. Electrons act like waves, no they don't exactly. They act like particles, no they don't exactly.
We need a theory of everything. Which is still just beyond our grasp. We need a theory of everything. Perhaps the ultimate triumph of science.
Offers a very different explanation of our world.
The universe is made of 12 particles of matter, 4 forces of nature. The universe is made of 12 particles of matter, 4 forces of nature. That's a wonderful and significant story.
I gotta stop somewhere. I'll leave you something to imagine.
Thank you. So I want to talk about the process that goes into creating these videos for a minute. Each video of mine starts off with a topical idea. I'll tell myself, wouldn't it be great to have a video about dinosaurs set to dubstep music? Or How about a video about space exploration set to uplifting piano music? Most of the time, the final product ends up completely different than what I had originally imagined, but I consider that a good thing because I put a lot of faith in the experimental process and creativity. I often don't know what I'm going to end up with when I start making something. I just know that with enough time and experimentation, the final product will end up great. All my songs begin with composition at the piano. A lot of times I'll take the piano and write an entire music piece and then structure the vocal samples around the music. Other times I'll take the vocal samples I really want to emphasize and work the music around those so that they're really placed in there just as I need them. There are tons of ways to innovate when composing music or doing creative video editing. And the key is to do things a little bit differently every time so that you don't end up with the same thing over and over again. And it's going to lead you to new creative discoveries. Now, since my videos distill like hours and hours of speech into only a few minutes of music, it's essential to have a strategy when you're going about selecting which quotes to use. And I think that instinct is your best guide when doing this. Paying attention to what quotes stick out at you right away is going to pay off, because being too analytical can work against you if you're not careful. So I always try and listen to what my instinct tells me when trying to find the best quotes, because what speaks to you as a creator will probably speak just as well to the audience. So I think the one word that sums up my creative process the most is serendipity, which is the idea of pleasant surprises. So you have to be willing to take risks, to take chances on wild and crazy ideas and see where they take you, because sometimes those crazy ideas are going to lead you to incredibly cool results. And whenever they don't, you're going to learn something from that too. So my philosophy has always been to nurture every weird and crazy idea I have, because you never know when it's going to end up working out as the best idea you've ever had. So in the process of experimenting, you get the coolest and most unique results. And by changing the way you actually work, you're going to evoke new ideas, and new concepts are going to jump out at you that you might not have noticed if you did things the same way every time. So innovating with methods like these is essential for retaining an audience too, because no one wants to see you create the same content over and over again, and you don't want to do that either. You want to keep your sanity. Now, one thing I've noticed working in the field of science and music is that the processes of creativity and evolution are actually very similar. So when you have a creative idea, you go in and you try it out, and if it doesn't work, you discard it and move on. Now, you keep repeating this process of experimentation until you strike on the one idea that you really like and it really sticks out at you. And you emphasize that idea and you repeat it and you do it over and over again. So you seek out these serendipitous moments in your work and you emphasize them. Now, in evolution, we see the same principle in effect. Nature creates mutations, and those mutations have their chance to do well in an environment. Now, if it doesn't do well, that creature is not selected for, and it's going to eventually die off. But if it's an improvement, a beneficial mutation, that is going to be selected for, and that creature is going to prosper. So nature plays this game over and over again in each particular environment, spreading the best mutations. So in a way, all of nature's creations are products of serendipity. So I've just noticed that this is this really nice, interesting parallel between the creative process and evolution. Now, repetition has always been an important part of learning. As teachers, you all know this. I mean, repeating something is the best way to memorize anything. Now, it's also an essential part of pop music, because every pop song has these parts to them that get stuck in your head that you're singing over and over again. One common thread in my videos is that I always try and emphasize and put a lot of focus on nailing down these really catchy choruses so that people are left singing and humming the information in their head when they're done watching. When you're doing that, it makes you want to come back and watch more as well. So there's this two sides to this technique that really help. And not only are you repeating the information in your head, but you're actually learning something, whether you realize it or not. So to me, the two keys to creating compelling content are passion and perfection. Being passionate about the subject and what you do is crucial to making your final product or work feel genuine. It's important for me to make sure that I'm enjoying myself most of the time throughout the creative process, because whenever I'm not, my heart isn't in it and I'm not going to be proud of the final product. And that's going to reflect ultimately in the quality of the work. Now, another part of this is being truly dedicated to your craft and not accepting anything less than perfection. So Johnny Ive of Apple once said that people can discern far more than they can articulate. And I think what he meant by that is people can detect little tiny finishing touches and details you put on your work, even if they can't say why or how it impacts them. And so you really have to put care into your work and make sure that every piece of it is up to your standards. Truly caring about the quality of your work is essential and will pay off in the long run. Now, a side effect of striving for perfection is that sometimes ideas are not going to work out and you're going to have to discard them. And I've had this happen a lot, where I've made a great video that I thought was just about done and I just couldn't finish it and it falls flat. And so when you're seeking that kind of perfection, that high standard, you have to be willing to sacrifice something you put a ton of hours into, even if it's just almost there and it's just not quite doing it for you. Now, this can be painful at a lot of times, but if you hold yourself to this high standard, it's going to pay off in the long run. My videos rely on the interplay between two things in particular. So they rely on uplifting, exciting music to evoke the emotions of the viewer, but they also rely on exciting, amazing imagery to draw you in and aid the experience. Now, science provides a ton of really incredible, amazing images. Stuff like exploding suns and cavemen and dinosaurs and black holes, all that stuff. It's really incredible, and it really helps sell the audience on the majesty of science. And as you know, a picture is worth 1,000 words. And sometimes the picture is all you need to tell a great story. So in 2012, I set out to make a video that would tell the entire history of mankind and the universe in under 2 minutes with no narration. Now this video presented a lot of challenges, because the main one being, what do you put in and what do you leave out, because there's so much to tell. Now, after experimenting for a long time, I came up with this. This is a video I call Our Story in 1 Minute. Thank you. Now, this video brings up another issue I find really important, which is the issue of setting boundaries for yourself when being creative. Now, this might sound like it would hold you back when trying to be creative, but I found the opposite to be true. So for that video, I told myself, in under 2 minutes, tell the entire history of mankind and the universe with no narration. Now, without those boundaries, I may have never finished the video because there's so many ways to do that. And having constraints really helps focus your energy. It forces you to come up with creative workarounds. Setting boundaries really frees you up to spend less time worrying about what else you could be trying. So whenever I'm making a video, I try and set these boundaries for myself to keep things moving along. For instance, I'll tell myself, this song needs to be all piano-based with an uplifting chorus, or this next song needs to be dark and electronic and about the early days of human history. So doing this cuts back on time-consuming decision-making. The more options you have at your disposal, the more time you spend deciding which one is better. So for me, personally, it really helps to start off with a certain set of restraints to work in. Now, I want to talk about inspiration for a minute because it's a very important part of the creative process for me and for all artists, really. Inspiration, as you know, can come from anything. It can come from hearing a song or taking a walk or watching a movie. And when it comes, you really have to take advantage of that moment because for me, when I'm especially inspired by an idea, that's when I'm at my creative best and most productive. And I'm the best at making ideas come to life when I'm really inspired. And I think this is something artists call the flow state. So the flow state is when you're completely engrossed in an idea and you get to shut out the outside world and lose yourself and be focused purely on the creative process. Now, for me, it's the most productive state. I can really ignore all my outside distractions and really be honed in on what I'm doing in the moment, and I actually lose track of time. I could go on for hours in the flow state just experimenting and bringing concepts to life. It's really the most magical moment of the whole process. And these moments always lead to the most compelling parts of my videos because the flow state brings out the best in you as a creator. When you're totally engrossed in the process and not thinking about any outside distractions, you really get a chance to shine. It's crucially important as a creator to set times when you're not being distracted by the outside world. You know, you're not getting emails and calls. All you're doing is focusing purely on the job at hand, on the creative process. Now, one benefit of being in the flow state is that you end up creating what I call eureka moments. Now, as educators, you guys have seen this. A eureka moment is when your kids finally come to grasp a concept for the first time. And you've probably seen this happen hundreds of times. Now, for me, in the creative process, a eureka moment is when I'm stuck on an idea and I just can't figure out how to take it to the next level or bring it to create a finished product out of it. So the eureka moment comes when you find this trick or idea that's going to take your piece to the next level and it's going to carry it to the finish line. And you find that nugget of gold, that one idea that's gonna really wrap everything up for you. So once I have these eureka moments, which I usually have at least one or two for every video, I know that I'm going to end up with a satisfying final product. These moments can be anything from finding two quotes that fit well together, or trying something different with the music, or even just flipping a couple of words around. And whenever I'm stuck on a video, I have to have faith that these eureka moments will come about. So in 2013, I set out to make a video covering one of the most difficult topics to cover, which was Einstein's theory of relativity. Now, everyone knows E equals mc squared, but a lot of people don't know what it means or what the implications are. So after a lot of hours selecting the best quotes I could find and composing the music and putting it all together, I just wasn't happy. The piece was missing some final ingredient. And I needed that eureka moment to tie everything together. And it finally came when I found a soundbite of the physicist Michio Kaku saying, "That is the secret of the stars." So this line became the focus of the entire piece and ended up carrying the piece to the finish line, and the whole video is saved. So here's that video now, Secret of the Stars.
Say, you like mystery stories? Well, we have one for you. The concept, relativity. That strange, fantastic relationship between time, distance, and math. Before we're finished, I think you'll agree that truth is stranger than the strangest fiction.
Why do the stars shine? Why does the galaxy light up?
E=mc².
That is the engine that lights up the stars. Energy turns into mass.
E=mc².
That is the secret of the stars.
That is the secret of the stars.
Now listen carefully. The faster you move, the heavier you get. The energy of motion turns into m, your mass. Energy of motion.
Energy equals mass times the speed of light squared. An awful lot of energy for a tiny amount of mass. Light travels at the same speed, no matter how you look at it. No matter how I move relative to you, light travels at the same speed.
No matter who is doing the measurement, and no matter what direction you are moving, the speed of light is the same, the speed of light is the same, no matter what direction or how fast. As you travel faster, time slows down, everything slows down,
Time slows down when your time passes at a different rate. Clocks run slow.
It's a monumental shift in how we see the world.
The beauty, the majesty, the power of the universe into a single equation.
E=mc².
That is the engine that lights up the stars. Energy turns into mass.
E=mc².
That is the secret of the stars.
It's a beautiful piece of science. It's a beautifully elegant theory. It's a beautiful piece of science. It's a beautiful piece of...
A planet like the Earth is kept in orbit because it follows curves in the spatial fabric caused by the sun's presence.
Space and time are bent by stars and planets. As things move through this curved space, they bend.
Now, all of this is illustration of the fact that time and space are linked together.
As you're moving through bent and curved space and time, you feel like you feel a force, As you're moving through bent and curved space and time, you feel like you feel a force. That force is gravity.
The beauty, the majesty, the power of the universe into a single equation.
E=mc².
That is the engine that lights up the stars. Energy turns into mass.
E=mc².
That is the secret of the stars. 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 That is the secret of the stars.
Thank you. Now I want to talk a little bit about the impact that these videos have had on students and my online followers. I've had a lot of students comment or email me and say, I learned more from your videos than I did in my high school science classes, or I wish my college professor taught science this way. And to me, this really shows that there's a genuine interest in these subjects in a lot of people. They just need a cool way of absorbing the material. I've even had teachers come up to me or email me and say that this helped reinvigorate their passion for what they do. And teachers are now using these videos in their classrooms as study aids or to get students excited about certain subjects. Now, to me, this demonstrates that the face of education is rapidly changing. There's a great opportunity for educators like all of us to leverage these new tools for education. And there are so many creative ways of retelling this information that there's no excuse not to go on finding more exciting ways of teaching science. Now, parts of science are always going to be difficult or boring for some people, but that doesn't mean other parts can't be fun. So Symphony of Science has picked up tens of millions of views online, and the scientists I've used in the videos have had only kind things to say about the project. This has really inspired me to keep going with the idea. It really helps kids and even adults get interested in these topics and things that they might have found boring or difficult in the past. So the graph you're looking at represents Google searches for Carl Sagan over time, and the orange dot is when I released A Glorious Dawn. So you can tell that it really sparked an interest in Carl Sagan and drove a newfound interest in his show. And this demonstrates that even one guy like me uploading his first video to YouTube can have a significant impact and truly inspire people to get more curious about science. So I hope my insights into the creative process have helped you, inspired you to become more creative with the ways you teach your kids. I'm sure you're going to encounter the same hurdles I have, but I encourage all of you to take risks and try crazy new things with the ways you teach your students. My message as someone who has found creativity as a great way to inspire curiosity is embrace creative new ways to teach your students. Because the more you innovate with the way you teach, the more kids are going to perk up and pay attention. Creative learning gives us new perspectives on subjects we might have found boring or difficult before. Sometimes we have to step outside the box and get a fresh look at these things. Dinosaurs in space never stop being cool. We never lose that sense of wonder we had as kids. We just sometimes need a spark to reignite it. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Let's give him applause, please, everybody. Thank you, John. Let's have a minute here to share some questions. Please. I believe it's a powerful message to invite. You mentioned before you have some feedback from schools and teachers and students using your materials.
Yeah.
What's their feeling, the impact they have after watching some of your materials?
Well, I think it just presents these concepts in a new light. I mean, people are hungry for fresh ways to absorb this material. It's all fascinating, but you know, kids are tired of learning through textbooks and lectures. Not to say that that's an ineffective way of learning, but by combining this kind of education with the traditional ways, I think you get the best of both worlds. You learn actually the deep concepts, but you also get excited about the subject at the same time. So it's not like these videos on their own are going to teach you everything about science. It's really just a way to spark people's interest and get them curious about it all. You know, you're not going to learn everything about quantum mechanics in a 3-minute music video, like I said.
Of course.
But yeah, it's a good starting point for kids, really.
And I believe, you mentioned the eureka moments, but we were calling before the epiphany moments.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe a young student, after watching your material, will see and imagine and dream many things that a simple book or a simple traditional classroom wouldn't do, no?
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I mean, this is a way for kids to just get really excited about this stuff, and there's no better time for kids to go out there and find this stuff on their own, because we have YouTube and Wikipedia now, and it's just a beautiful time for kids to get interested on their own and go explore by themselves and go discover all that fascinating stuff on their own accord.
We have questions or maybe comments from the audience, and we have micros over in the floor. Please, if we can. Thank you very much. So we can see, we have one over here, right? A hand, and the micros are on the way. Please, go ahead.
Hi.
Micros. 1, 2, 3. Yes.
Hello. Hey John, I'm a big fan. I think what you're doing, it's really important, and it's really helping us link the students with certain topics of science.
Thank you.
Now my question for you is, how do you make choices about what you include in your videos?
That's a good question. Like I mentioned in the talk, I think instinct is a big part of it. The other method I have is I will just pull everything I can and just make a giant, basically bank of samples, and I'll really listen to everything I pulled, everything that really struck me as I listened for it originally, and kind of as I go through that big bank of samples, I'll notice which parts fit well together and which parts don't, and which parts are the strongest. And when you kind of analyze it that way, the theme really jumps out at you. You discover what you can do the best with what you have. I mean, I'm not writing any of this stuff, so I'm having to pull from existing materials, and by really familiarizing yourself with what you have to work with, I think that's the best way to choose what you can do and what you can't do.
Always using music, I believe, no?
Yes, yes, very important.
Please, go ahead.
Bueno, voy a hablarlo en español.
Yes.
Ahí le traducen. Quiero decir que soy súper fan. Yo veo los videos desde hace poco, como 6 meses. Los descargo, los escucho en el coche, los canto. Aquí me sentía como en un concierto de rock. Quería cantarlo y quería...
un momento. No soy un profesional en esto, ¿no? She's a super fan of yours.
Thank you.
She has been listening your materials for the last 6 months, and she downloaded and even sings. She's willing to dance right now, actually.
No, solo cantar.
No tanto,
sing.
Okay.
Bueno, creo en el poder de la música.
I believe in the power of the music.
So, tengo un preescolar,
A kindergarten.
en el que trabajamos a través de la música.
We work through music in the kindergarten.
Creemos igual que un concepto abstracto y complejo puede reducirse en tiempo y utilizando la música para llegar a los niños, seguro también con los grandes.
We believe as well that using the music as an instrument to support an abstract concept is very powerful with the kids, but also with adult people.
Agreed.
Esto me acerca al concepto que platicábamos hace un momento en relación al kindergarten para toda la vida.
This is very close to the concept we were discussing in the previous conference about a lifetime kindergarten.
Mm-hmm. I like that, yeah.
Pero tenemos un problema, y ese problema es que le cuesta a mis niños del preescolar entrar a la primaria. No es como los chicos de la prepa, que comentaba el filósofo anteriormente, que no tienen universidad. Es un problema de preescolares que no tienen primaria.
Pero el problema es acceder a la primaria.
No, es que ellos piensan distinto. Piensan distinto porque trabajan con música todo el tiempo.
Ya entendí. She faces now the problem of these kids using this kind of materials and technology, using music to learn subjects, and now when they enter basic school, primary, they face the problem because in the normal schools in Mexico, as in the US, in any other country, they do not use music as an instrument for knowledge or instrument for learning process.
Mm-hmm.
No solo por eso, sino también por el sistema tradicional.
The traditional system in the schools. Okay, thank you. Any comment or answer?
Well, yeah, I think music is underutilized as a tool in education because it's such a powerful emotional tool. I mean, it really does evoke emotions from you, very strong ones, and you, by not utilizing it, you're throwing away an important part of your tool bag. And I think, like going back to Carl Sagan's Cosmos, he really emphasized music in the show, and it really helped strengthen the impact. You really got this sense that this is an emotional subject. Science is truly fascinating and inspiring, and music is a great way to kind of nail down those moments. And I think everyone should embrace it because it's such an important tool to have.
It is. It's a powerful instrument,
yes.
I believe. I don't know how many of you have musical groups in your schools or orchestras or things. I know some have, but not everybody. Please go ahead.
Thank you. Congrats for the content, amazing content. My question for you is, which is your recommendation for these teachers that wants to generate content by their own, and they are thinking to generate content using third-party content, for example? Which is your recommendation to start generating content as for the teachers?
Your recommendation to start generating content?
For the teachers that are thinking to generate content by their own, so what would be your recommendation?
I see.
Yeah, I would say, going back to Cosmos and Carl Sagan, go watch Cosmos and look at the way he presents information to the viewer. It's incredible, all these interesting paths he takes to explain simple concepts. Start looking at different scientific concepts in a new light and try and get inspired by Carl and the way he kind of explains them in a way you wouldn't think about doing, and really relate it to people's lives in a way they might not have noticed before. You know, those kind of approaches will help, you know, get kids interested. You don't have to use music if you don't want. I mean, there's a lot of other ways to go about it.
Excellent, thank you. Yolanda, over there, do you have a micro?
Yes, I think I do. Hi, my son, who's a scientist, introduced me to your videos, and I think they're brilliant.
Thank you.
One of the things that you said that you inspire kids, and kids write to you. Have you, or have kids shared their productions with you? Is it spinning off? Because one of the things we know is that you're the one who's been learning and by doing, because we learn by doing. We don't really learn by just listening. So can you share with us some of the spin-offs?
Yeah, actually
Thanks.
a lot of kids have undertaken their own approach to what I do. You can go Google, you know, inspired by Symphony of Science, and there's a lot of YouTube videos that are very similar to what I've done. But since I started this video, or the series, there's a whole ton of other YouTube series that are pretty much in line with what I do, but just a little bit different. You know, you've got stuff like Vsauce and Minute Earth and all these interesting YouTube channels that have kind of sprung up around this idea of short form, exciting content that teaches you science in cool new ways. So, yeah.
How long does it take you to make it?
Usually between 2 weeks to a month.
Between 2 weeks and a month to produce one piece.
Yes.
Okay. Part 1 and 2, and we know I'm going to take another question over there in a minute. I'm going to share this talking about the Mexican educational system, but it's very similar in other countries in Latin America. But we are not very strong at science. We are very weak in science education. I don't know if you share this, but we made something wrong since the beginning, because it's like we make a vaccine in the kids, and they dislike science and they are afraid of science, and they don't know exactly how to deal with it or how to play with it. And maybe it's the same in other countries in Latin America. I believe it is, but these kind of materials, it's like playing, it's like learning. You were mentioning that, Yolanda, we learn by doing, and we do not produce the videos, we do not produce the music, and we do not produce the images. But when we listen and we watch the material, it's very motivating and it's very friendly in a way that we can access to that highly complex knowledge, the relativity theory, by this kind of material. I believe that's one of your motivations to do it. Am I right?
Yeah, I think, like I said in the talk, it's really about rekindling that sense of wonder you had as a kid. I mean, every kid loves science. I mean, there's so much cool stuff to learn about and study, and space is just incredible. But, you know, high schoolers don't give a damn about that stuff. They're just, it's just kind of second nature to them, and they're just whatever. But this is about really, you know, re-engaging people in these ideas and getting that sense of wonder back in people, because it doesn't ever go away. It just needs to be rekindled.
That's right. Let's have more comments and questions over there. Please, go ahead, sir.
Mucho gusto conocerte. Pues sí has impactado a muchos de nosotros aquí, y principalmente como director de una escuela y en la área de creatividad, pues vamos a poner en práctica muchos proyectos con los niños utilizando la música. ¿Cómo podemos hacer esto nosotros para que los alumnos lo tengan? ¿Tendrás alguna aplicación, algunas recomendaciones prácticas que cosas que los podamos descargar a lo mejor en los celulares para que los niños vayan haciendo su propia música y video.
Correcto, muy bien, muchas gracias. He's very pleased that you're here and the impact of your speech and your material. What's your recommendation, or if you have any advice for kids to be active in producing their own materials? If there is an application or something that you can share online that they can download and produce their own materials, is there any?
Yeah, I would recommend people just encourage kids to go online and go to YouTube and Wikipedia and all these websites. And there's so many series out there that you can get lost in because they've got hours and hours of content, and you can just, spend days learning creative new things in awesome new ways. That stuff. And beyond that, in the classroom, I think you can even encourage kids to write songs about science. I mean, that kind of stuff, anything you can think of to change the way that they take in that information.
We are almost on time. I'm going to take 2 more questions and then wrap it up and have conclusions. Over here,
Acá.
please.
Sí, veo que eres un joven de procesos.
I see that you are a young
Todo lo
man
que
for
nos
process.
describiste son procesos. Nuestros jóvenes, muchos no les gustan los procesos. Quieren, ¡pum!, llegar. Y no les gusta detenerse. Evidentemente, si tú estudias antropología desde niño, adquieres el conocimiento de los procesos de acuerdo a la vida natural, la historia natural.
We can see that you are a guy from processes, that you process things one step and another and another. Our young students, the director is saying, doesn't like processes. They want to achieve the goal in one step.
¿Qué nos recomiendas a los maestros para enseñarles a los alumnos a seguir procesos que te pueden llevar a momentos creativos que innoven la educación?
What's your recommendations to teachers and professors to help them to teach processes and the way of learning by steps to achieve a goal and to achieve the moment of creativity?
Yeah, that's a good question. That's interesting. That's difficult to answer, but I would say try to make sure your kids are enjoying every step of it. I mean, don't try and say, today you have to go home and do 3 hours of homework about, studying math. That's just not exciting to kids. I mean, for me personally, that's not exciting, but try to make every part of it at least somewhat enjoyable, because for me, as I mentioned, it's crucial that the process itself is enjoyable, because otherwise your heart's not going to be in it and you're not going to be proud of what you make and you're not excited about learning about that stuff. So whatever you can do to encourage kids to enjoy each step of the process would be helpful.
Thank you. Excellent. One last question from here. No? We have another question? No? That's fine. Okay, let's have, yes, over here. Yes, I saw a hand up.
Buenos días para todos desde Colombia.
De Colombia.
Quiero retomar, tú te devuelves a Cosmos. Yo te escucho y me devuelvo a Leonardo da Vinci en los 7 principios de la vida. Me devuelvo más en la historia y me haces recordar a Leonardo da Vinci en sus 7 principios, y especialmente en uno que es el arte, y dice: ¿cómo puedes trabajar al mismo tiempo la lógica y la creatividad en tu vida?
Wow. The lady professor is coming from Colombia, and she said that when she watches you, she thinks in Leonardo da Vinci in Florence, which is very flattering, actually. But and she thinks that especially in one of the Leonardo's concept about art, how can you mix the logical thinking and art, creativity.
En la vida.
In life.
Yeah, I agree with, I think it's very important to I consider myself like an equally left brain and right brain person. So
a very balanced person.
Yeah, well, I have a lot of...
You're unique.
I think it's really important to strike a balance between the analytical side and the creative side. You don't want to spend all your time developing one or the other. You need to spend a lot of time developing your creativity, but also spend a lot of time refining your analytical skills. And doing those in balance is really important because those two working together are the best thing for a healthy human mind.
Gracias.
Thank you very much, John. I do appreciate very much your presence here. Let's give an applause, ladies and gentlemen, John Boswell. Thank you.